Hello, Math 7 students. Today we are starting our 16th video, and that video is called, hold on, let me turn to my table of contents. That video is called Dividing with Common Denominators. And I can find that in my comp book on page 41, so I'm going to turn to page 41 now. All right. And again, the title, make sure you're writing the title at the top of each page, Dividing with Common Denominators. The goal for today is, today we are going to review dividing with common denominators. Now, boys and girls, this is kind of a review lesson because I noticed there were a couple of you who still needed some extra support with this, so we're going to go over it one more time. The question I want you to be thinking about during our lesson today is, why can we divide straight across when we have a common denominator? Okay, hopefully you'll be able to answer that question when we get done. Earlier in our mixed numbers lesson, we talked about the number of circles that are represented by having a common denominator, and so that's really helpful in figuring out that answer. Things to know. The denominator is the bottom number of a fraction. You need to know that. A common denominator means that the bottom numbers of both fractions are exactly the same. So if we look at this example right here, we have 2/3 and 5/2. Okay? First question that I want to ask you is, are the denominators the same? And your answer should be no. This one has thirds, or 3. This one has halves, or 2. 3 and 2 are not the same. Okay? The second question that I need to ask you is, how can we make them the same? All right, we want them to be the same, which means that they are common. So there's a way that we can do that. The first thing that you have to do in order to do this process is you have to find a number that both denominators can go into evenly. So 2 and 3, what is the closest number that they both can go into evenly? If you're thinking 6, then you're right. So let's take a look at this one. So we have 2/3 is that fraction that we had. 5/2 is that fraction that we have. And if we chose 6, then we wrote 6 here. The question that you have to ask yourself is, how did I get from 3 to 6? And remember, I'm multiplying. So from 3 to 6, I have to multiply by 2. And the multiplicative rule is what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So 2 times 2 is 4. So now my new equivalent fraction to 2/3 is 4/6. They're equal because we increased them both by multiplying by 2. Okay? We had 5/2. We're trying to get to 6. So the question is, how did you get from 2 to 6? Well, this time we had to multiply it by 3. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So 5 times 3 is 15. 2 times 3 is 6. And now 15/6 is an equivalent fraction to 5/2 because we increased them both by multiplying by 3. Okay? Now our denominators are the same. Does everybody see that? Good. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to try a couple more examples. And so I'm going to show you those without letting you peek too much. Okay. So the first fraction is 2/3. The second fraction is 1/4. So what is a number that 3 and 4 can go into evenly? If you said 12, you are correct. It is right there. So the question is, how did we get from 3 to 12? How we got there is multiplying by 4. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So 2 times 4 is 8. 3 times 4 is 12. So the new equivalent fraction to 2/3 is 8/12. 1/4 can be changed into a denominator of 12 by multiplying by 3. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So 1 times 3 equals 3. 4 times 3 equals 12. Now both of these equivalent fractions, the ones that I'm pointing to, the ones that have a box around them, have a common denominator of 12. Okay? All right, moving on to the next example. What if our fractions that we're looking at now were 3/8 and 3/9? Interesting. 3/8 and 3/9. Well, what do 8 and 9 have in common? What do they both go into evenly? The easiest way to do that one is multiply them together. What is 8 times 9? You are absolutely right, 72. So 72 is the denominator that we get to choose. So you ask yourself, how did you get from 8 to 72? I multiplied it by 9. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. 3 times 9 is 27. So an equivalent fraction to 3/8 is 27/72, or 70 seconds. Okay? 3/9 to get to 72, I multiplied by 8. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So 3 times 8 is 24. 9 times 8 is 72. So I have 24 72nds, which is equivalent or equal to 3/9 because I multiplied both sides by 8. Boys and girls, how are you feeling on this? I hope you're feeling pretty confident because it's really not that difficult. Okay, let's try the last one. Our original fraction was 2/7 and 1/2. What do they have in common? 14. That is correct. How did I get from 7 to 14? Multiplied by 2. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. 2 times 2 is 4. 7 times 2 is 14. How did I get from 2 to 14? Times 7. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. 1 times 7 is 7. 2 times 7 is 14. So we now have equivalent fractions. 1/2 is equal to 7/14. 2/7 is equal to 4/14. Okay, and they both have common denominators now. All right, let's take a look at some more practice. Okay, so the next thing that we have to talk about after we have the common denominators is dividing, because that's what our lesson is about. So remember, dividing with common denominators. Now we know how to find the common denominators, and now we're actually going to divide it out. So, steps for dividing with common denominators. Step number 1, first thing is find a common denominator. So 3/7 divided by 2/3. Well, the common denominator would be 21. How did I get from 7 to 21? Times 3. What you do to one side, you have to do the other, so I have 9/21. 2/3 times 7 over 7. 7 times 3 is 21. 2 times 7 is 14. So now my common denominator problem used to be 3/7 divided by 2/3. Now it is 9/21 divided by 14/21. So they now have common denominators. Step 2 is divide straight across. Okay, so here we go. We're dividing straight across. We now have common denominators. 9/21 divided by 14/21. 9/21 divided by 14/21. Straight across. 21 divided by 21. 9 divided by 14. Keep going. 21 divided by 21 can also be written vertically. 9 divided by 14 can also be written vertically. 21 divided by 21 is 1. 9 divided by 14 is 9/14. 9/14 divided by 1 equals 9/14. So your answer to this problem right here is 9/14. Does everybody see that? I hope so. All right, so now we have some try-it problems, and you are going to do these try-it problems on your own. The one thing that I want to remind you to do is, first, find a common denominator. Second, divide straight across. So you're going to try it with 5/9 divided by 2/4, 5/8 divided by 1/3, and 10/3 divided by 5/6. That's what you're going to practice today. Okay? All right, don't forget your common denominators. Let's go back to our question. Why can we divide straight across when we have a common denominator? Look at what happens when you have a common denominator. 21 divided by 21 gives you 1. So what you're actually doing when you find the common denominator is you're finding your unit rate. So you're simplifying everything down to 1. So that's why we can divide straight across, because the denominator is the same amount. So we know that we're okay. All right? I hope this is fun for you. I hope I helped clarify any things that you were still unsure of, and I will see you all tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye.